Hi guys, welcome to Wrestling Fan Open My Night here exclusively to you guys on YouTube.com. Just want to say to you guys it's night time somewhere in this world that may be. Bear with me, I've got someone drilling in my area outside and it's echoing around my area. It's giving me a pounding headache. I've been listening to it since 8 o'clock this morning and it's literally giving me a much of a pounding headache to the point where it woke me up. And that's saying something. But I'm not here to address about a headache, although am I. And I'm not here to hinder anyone's fandom or anything like that, but I feel like WWE is struggling at the moment. Not because of the debt that most fans know about now, but they always live for the moments. We've noticed that within the past few years now, you might want to say. And it's getting to the point where I feel so bad for certain wrestlers. Yes, recently AJ Lee came back. Yes, she's feuding with Becky Lynch. Straight into the title picture at some point with the IC title. We're expecting that to actually drop and so on. But that's not elevating anyone else, really. Because I've noticed when you have these sort of moments, you would actually say majority of the matches that you watch week in, week out, apart from those moments, will be overshadowed and overlooked because certain returns. You look at when I was talking about the AJ Styles promo when I uploaded the video yesterday. Go check that out if you haven't already. That if that made the air of the product on around the world, other than just social media, as well as obviously the likes of Netflix that UK people got, that would have overshadowed the likes of AJ Lee's return. And I've said that, and that's what I mean. But although it could have backfired, and it could have been like both of them being talking points. You know, that was AJ Lee's return on Monday Night Raw, and it was a big thing for WWE to do that, even though I'm not for it. Because a lot of the matches and the feuds and so on, I feel like are getting overlooked. Even though you have got that draw of AJ Lee coming to the Monday Night Raw product last Monday that's just gone 2 days ago, and I feel like that's how much WWE are living for the moments, you know. And I feel like they struggle to build these main stars. Yes, Roman Reigns had a decent run, but all of a sudden he's like opening card of the matches and so on like that. Yes, granted he's got filming commitments when he was literally in the company, not being written off for a long period of time, because he actually had film commitments doing Street Fighter. So did Cody Rhodes. And the problem where it lies is where Cody Rhodes has been passed the torch that many times, you think he hasn't paid his electric bill. You know, he's lighting his houses up with torches, you know, in a matter of speaking. So that's what I mean. It's like Cody built up himself. Drew McIntyre built up himself, right? Sort of LA Knight did, but obviously I don't feel like he's main event stature now. They should have capitalized on him like 2-3 years ago. And sorry about the chair, by the way. And that's what I'm saying is like, I look at the way WWE is at the moment and I'm thinking, who's going to be the faces? Who's going to be main event in Mania in the next 5 years? You know, is it going to be to the point where you're literally living that far in the moment? You feel like AJ Lee's probably going to be winning the Women's Royal Rumble. I could see that coming. And you probably get Logan Paul winning the Men's Royal Rumble. That I could see that coming, you know, because it's another capitalizing on a moment, which, yeah, fair enough, the Royal Rumble is that part of Road to WrestleMania, but it's getting to the point where I feel like the WWE don't know how to make future-proof themselves anymore, you know, and that's kind of sucks. Because you look at the way wrestling's been done for WWE, you had the likes of Hulk Hogan, you had the likes of John Cena, you had the likes of The Rock, you had future stars coming through the ranks to future-proof yourself for the future. And you've done that for many, many years, but then all of a sudden within the last 5 years, we've not technically had that sort of moment that we can actually say, oh, that person's going to be great and all that lot in the future. You know, the likes of Dominic Mysterio, yeah, he's doing his own thing with the IC title currently, but this lack of consistency, that's the problem where it lies. And I've said already, and I'll say it again, the moments are overshadowing certain matches that you thought were great, could have been great, on paper, not delivered because you can't remember it that well. You know, I can't remember a solid individual other than John Cena been recently, because he's actually had those moments in his matches where he's tributed wrestlers in his matches with certain moves that he knows full well he can't face them and pay homage to the people that paved his way of his career. You know, I feel like the way he should end his career, right? And I'll be honest with you, whoever he faces, he should win with the ankle lock. You know, and it will pay homage to the person that basically he had technically his first match with. It'll be perfect homage because you know full well he's not going to be able to capitalize on with the likes of Kurt Angle, and if he does that sort of move, that's another moment in wrestling history that we're going to always forever remember. But the problem where it lies, when I literally look, they used to have a mainstream scene, like in the main event sort of scene. They used to have different divisions. This is why I've said in a video in the past, and I'll say it again. Brand split would literally harm it even more than what it once did for the company. So you look at the way the bigger picture is, and the massive bigger picture is, that I don't see anyone in that current roster that could be main eventing WrestleMania within the next 5 years. And that's hard for me to say, because I was literally hoping for the best for Cody when he came in the company, you know, because they need to build the company around him. Now he's off filming Street Fighter, same as Roman Reigns. Who you've got? Yeah, you got Seth Rollins at the moment. You got the likes of Becky Lynch. They haven't got that much gas in the tank. To be honest, the people that have been around a while, they haven't got that much gas in the tank left. You know, Zeno at the moment, he's leaving end of the year. So we're going to literally, this is the problem where it lies. You need someone larger than life character, the likes of John Cena once had, and then brought to the company, brought to the fold. And I literally look at that roster and I'm thinking, you're lacking that star power. The reason why I used to watch your company, even though you've got these all-star names, larger than life characters, you've got the likes of CM Punk, Seth Rollins, etc., etc., etc. You know, you've got them. But that's current mentality. But when you want to future-proof yourself, like within the next 5 years, it's going to be very, very difficult because you're not setting the seeds. You're not planting the seeds to grow something bigger, you know, and that's saying something, you know, and that's what WWE I feel like lacking. Even though I feel like they're not, how to put it, other than these all-star names, I feel like when I look at the ones that when they are leaving the company, when they've had enough of the company, or they've literally left because they can't do it anymore, or life-term threatening injury or something like that, like we've had in the past, that you literally are going to put yourself in the mud, do I say it? Because you won't have all this drawn in star power. That's why you look to AEW. That's why I look to AEW. You may not have that star-stricken power at the moment because it's due to injury, but they will or will not return, depending on how well their surgery goes in, etc. like that. I haven't got a crystal ball to predict the future, even though I can predict with WWE's future. At least one thing with the likes of AEW, they've actually future-proofed themselves. They've dropped in the seeds. They've literally made everything to work around the likes of Will Ospreay being time off, the likes of Strickland being timed off. You know, they've literally planted the seeds for us. You know, that's why I feel like Hangman Adam Page, when he won the world title at Double or Nothing, that's why Will Ospreay didn't get the title this year. And what's the point of having it? Because he's going to have a short run. You know, and I've already did a video on my thoughts and opinions about Will Ospreay being AEW World Champion in 2025. And I'm actually literally right to a point what I actually said in that video. But that's what I mean. It's like with AEW, I do like what they have to offer, you know? And it's baffling me to think that someone like the WWE, being as big as they are, don't know how to build future stars. You know, to send them into the next 5 years. Or that I know that's a stretch this day and age, but seriously, you know, you've got so many people. The thing is, right? You're stretching it that far. You're actually sending main roster members that you're not using week in, week out. You're sending them the likes of NXT. You know, because you are scared what these wrestlers can actually do. It's like when I said about the AJ Styles thing. If he leaves the company and goes to AEW or back to TNA or anything like that, it just at some point at the end of his career contract, you know, it's really mental to think that someone as big as AJ Styles, you couldn't capitalize technically on him. Yeah, you did for a bit, and then you brush your hands off him. You know, the only reason why I feel like WWE signed the likes of AJ Styles is to stop him going elsewhere. The same with Pete Dunne. You literally apparently now he's part of the production team towards AAA. The only reason why you have put him in that predicament is because you're making him honor his contract, so he doesn't want to leave the company to go elsewhere. You know full well we do a fantastic job elsewhere. The same with Tyler Bate. I haven't got a clue what they're doing with him. You know, other than that fake American Mexican guy that I keep nameless because I claim it's a racist character, and that's just me being honest. A white guy trying to be a Mexican, it's like equivalent to painting a black face on a white male or female, you know. But that's not that's wrong and everything this day and age. But you actually like someone that is white that is Mexican is perfectly fine. You know, it's wrong. You know, and that's what I mean. It's like, have we come to this conclusion now? You need to realize this, that wrestlers do age, wrestlers deteriorate, etc. But you got to think, who could be like built in the right direction towards like being the flagship person of that brand anymore? You know, at least one thing they did future-proof themselves ready pretty much when Brock left, because obviously, what happens if he didn't leave the WWE back in the day, 2004? Would he be still around this company? Would the likes of Batista be the person that he was in the movies? Would he be still around today wrestling? That's what I mean. You used to do like sort of passing the torch more than obviously Cody Rhodes, like I've mentioned. But I don't feel like Cody Rhodes could actually carry the company this long, because the way he is at the moment, not being used because of obviously being Street Fighter committed, I literally look at that and I'm thinking, okay, are you trying to prove your point that with Cody Rhodes off the screen that you don't need anyone to be that flagship person? It just makes me wonder when I look at the product and I'm thinking, how are you fumbling so much? I know fumble is a big stretch, but that's what I really can't stand, is like where you've literally got great wrestlers, but you're not utilizing them technically to take them into the next 5 years. You know, it's mental, absolute mental. Yeah, people talk about the moments. Yeah, talk about certain matches and all that lot. Yeah, you've done. People may do reviews on YouTube or TikTok and all that lot, but would you remember these being a die-hard wrestling fan? Would you literally say these are memorable moments that you remember till the day you die to pass on to your kids or your grandkids when you come of age? You know, it's like, I look at the golden era. I'm not listing them, but I can say, you look at how stacked that roster was back in the day. You knew full well you had sort of backup when Hulk Hogan left. You knew you had backup with the likes of Macho Man Randy Savage left. You knew Hot Rod Roddy Piper, name but a few, Mr. Perfect. You knew full well back then. You knew in the Attitude Era that who would take them into the next realm, if you know what I mean. And then you knew full well in Ruthless Aggression Era, but the entertainment era when that started, or whatever you want to class it as. Then we had the COVID era. I know it's slapstick humor when COVID was around, at least one thing that was entertaining, and then you actually have this current era. Before this era, I'd say, other than the Moments era, what you had before was the Easter egg era. That you had made people tune in because you literally saw Easter eggs behind what was actually happening and people guessing what's going off and talking about them. You had that moment of fame doing that. Now you're just living for the moments for the now, which is kind of weird. As a wrestling fan, you wouldn't expect that on mainstream. I would expect that on independent wrestling because, end of the day, independent wrestling, they don't do that many shows. They do, luckily enough, 1 or 2 a month. When WWE do it week in, week out, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Logically, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing it this bad, but you are doing it this bad. And that's why I've tuned out the likes of Raw or SmackDown. I stopped watching NXT, and I'm looking when I see clips of NXT with main roster members going back down to NXT. Yeah, they may have their homecoming show, if you want to call it that. But I feel like you are taking away them to benefit NXT, fair enough, but it's just a mess. This is why I feel like when I look at the certain things that WWE are doing right now, they shouldn't be. Not live for the now, live for tomorrow, as I always say. Future-proof yourself. You've got the talent there. You just need to get the right storylines. And it's mad to think that people are hyping up more of it. This is weird to think. They are hyping more up a mixed tag team match than a women's world title match that could be clinic, but it'll be overshadowed by AJ Lee's return into the ring. You literally got a main event title in the picture. You got the likes of, as of yet, there's no Cody Rhodes match, and he's the current world champion. You're going back to pretty much the same standards when Brock Lesnar was around. The main title was not involved that much. But at least one thing, the mid-card titles back then, they got utilised properly. But at the moment, I feel like, what the hell are you doing with the mid-card titles, let alone the tag team divisions, let alone the women's tag team division, let alone the women's division? All you're focusing on is that return match. And that sucks. That sucks for every person that is involved. And you don't need certain wrestlers to hype it up because you've already got enough hype already from the fans. You don't need that sort of extra credibility. It just... But it baffles me that, yeah, fair enough, you are bringing AJ Lee back. I can handle that sort of thing, but I'm not saying this in a bad light. But I thought she was overrated back in the day. She only had like 3-minute matches. But I can understand where people are hyping it up because you grew up watching her, but you never had the accessibility to social media like you do today. If it was like today, like I was on social media, I've seen the backlash of AJ Lee when she was actually a wrestler. And it was not a pretty sight to read or witness and everything. Because obviously wrestling captivated me. And that's why I'm doing YouTube videos today, because back in 2010 I started. And I lived and breathed professional wrestling back then. I was doing so much for social media. And I'm doing videos as and when at the moment. Because obviously other commitments and that. But it used to hog my life. And I'm not bullshitting to you. So social media is hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easy. But the amount of shit I used to witness about people saying about AJ Lee, you could easily get banned on Facebook this day and age. You know, so much offensive comments, trolls, left, right, and centre. She can't wrestle. She can't do this. And then all of a sudden, the Divas movement give more women a chance. That capitalised. Okay, fair enough. But she just phased out at the wrong time of leaving the company, I feel. Fair enough, she was a champion, don't get me wrong, but that Divas belt meant nothing. You know, it meant to little girls at the time, but probably now grown adults or in their late teens now. They idolised AJ Lee because of that belt, because it was a butterfly. It appealed to kids, don't get me wrong. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, you're living from 10 years ago to nowadays, and I'm thinking, okay, it's just a weird world that we're actually in at the moment when it comes to professional wrestling. I'm not saying this in a bad. Remember, I'm just speaking my mind, and I feel like WWE is struggling because they're going to struggle themselves a lot more. But the only way I feel like WWE and TKO are ever going to listen, this is Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, whoever, right, will listen if merchandise sales goes down, ticket sales goes down. That's the only time they've ever done what they've done in the past. This is before TKO, even when Kevin Dunn and Vince McMahon was in power. You know, when tickets went declining, house shows didn't sell that well, you know, because they knew the product was shit. But then I look at today's, I'm thinking, other than what you are paying for that superhero star power, what you are actually paying for, what you are actually intending as a fan, you know, because it really frustrates me. It really does, because the matches ain't that great. The storylines ain't that great. You know, it seems like this. It's just mental to think that we look at the moment. I've done already a video of this. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch being the power couple of WWE in 2025. Right? I've already done a video on that. Now I'm starting to think like I backtrack what I've said in that video. You know, because at the end of the day, AJ Lee's coming back. You know? But the problem is you've got a battle of two couples. You know? I feel like the way they should have actually booked the likes of AJ Lee and CM Punk coming back, booked them as like Natural Born Killers, if you've ever seen that movie. But I've noticed one thing, right? WWE in the slightest would not capitalise on a power couple or couples in professional wrestling that often, if not ever, right? I feel like the only reason why I feel like they want to cash in on this couple idea is because GTA 6 is coming out next year. I know it's a crazy inkling, but I feel like that's what they're doing. They're capitalizing on what Rockstar are producing right now for the fans in May to capitalize on it. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if this couple idea still sticks around when that comes out, and then the turn around and says, this match is sponsored by Rockstar, the providers of GTA 6. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But like I'm saying to you, they are struggling in 2025. Other than the moments, right? Other than the moments, be honest. Other than Xena's heel turn was actually garbage. Other than his recent stuff, like I've mentioned in this video and the previous video, what do you actually remember from 2025? That can literally, you can actually look back in 5 years' time and say, yeah, that worked. That's future-proof of themselves for where I am today in 2030. Tell me, please do in the comments. I would love to see people interact with me. But that's what I mean. They need to capitalize in the moments. But this is me signing off anyway, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And obviously keep subscribing and keep hitting that bell icon. Till next time, catch you guys soon.